Oh my gosh. Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Chronically Ill Diaries podcast. I'm your host, Jane, and we are back from a long break. A lot's been going on. You know what? I'm going to stop using that as an excuse. A lot is always going on, and so when I upload. When I don't, usually you can guess that a lot's going on in my life. But I'm happy to be back for this episode. I was thinking of some fun topics, and honestly, the next couple videos, the topics that I've found are actually from this support group that I probably have mentioned before that I'm in on Facebook, but it is basically like a transplant support group, so it's for kidney and liver. And people ask so many questions on there, and some of the ones that I thought were pretty interesting or just something that I would have asked back in the day, now that I'm an experienced kidney disease person, those are the ones that I gravitated more towards too. And so for today's topic, I kind of wanted to talk about if you are about to start dialysis, this podcast episode is for you. And let's get started. All right, before we get into this episode, I just wanted to say I did peritoneal dialysis. I have never done any form of hemo, not in patient or at home hemodialysis. However, I have learned a lot about it. I have been taught about it, but I did not actually personally go through that. So I am mostly going to be speaking about PD. However, the mental state of starting dialysis is the same for any type of dialysis, in my opinion. So going off of that, let's get started. So typically, maybe you have underlying issues. Maybe you have like what I have. You have lupus nephritis. You have diabetes. Or maybe it's completely out of the blue and you just have kidney disease or kidney issues. Typically, I feel like dialysis isn't something that just is handed to you. Usually you kind of have a point in time, whether it's 2 months, 3 months, a year, where you're kind of like in that place where it's coming. And although you may have time, it usually isn't enough time to prepare yourself for going on dialysis and making such a large change to your life. For me, I went into kidney failure in the beginning of 2018, and by November of that year, I was listed for transplant. However, I wasn't on dialysis yet, but I feel like from November of 2018 to May of 2019 was my little buffer that they said. I didn't know when I was going to go on dialysis. I just knew starting in November, like, I am on a transplant list. It is only a matter of time until my kidneys take a poop and I need life support essentially to live on from there. However, I was not very knowledgeable about dialysis, and I feel like my doctors didn't really teach me about dialysis before the fact when I was still kind of in that limbo area. And so that's what I kind of want to get into in this video and hopefully help someone that you might be in that stage where you know that it's coming and you can kind of make better decisions than the ones that I made. Or if you've just been told like, hey, it's about to happen, we need to have the surgery to put in a port or put in your tube, whatever the case may be. I hope that this video can help you a little bit, kind of help with that mental state, and then also the things that I personally went through to kind of give you a little insight on what could happen to you. Again, everyone's story is a little different, but I can let you know exactly what happened to me and what I was thinking at the time. So starting in November, I instantly became this little rebellious child once I was told that I am on the transplant list. My whole life since I was diagnosed, I was told that dialysis was a possibility. I was told that it's something that you don't want to do. It's horrible, blah, blah, blah. Don't let yourself get to that point. Well, sometimes you don't really have a choice, and you're doing everything in your power to keep yourself healthy, and your body still doesn't do what it's supposed to do to keep you healthy. And that's one thing I want to start off with by saying, if you have kidney failure and you're holding on by a thread, those little kidneys are holding on by a thread, and they fail, 9 out of 10 times, it is not your fault. It is not what you are doing to make this happen to you. Although you might think about it like, oh, I should have ate healthier, I should have exercised more, I should have A, B, and C. If your body has an organ failure and it's heading downhill, once it's kind of like a snowball, once it kind of hits a point where it's going downhill and declining, it's just going to keep declining. And yes, there are cases where you're able to save that kidney, but a lot of times it's just a snowball effect. It is not your fault. It'll just keep going downhill. And it is very important to remind yourself during that mental dark place in your mind when you are telling yourself, it is my fault that I'm about to start dialysis right now. It's my fault that I'm so sick. Just keep reminding yourself that that negative voice in your head telling you it's all your fault is not true. It is not your fault. You did not choose this life. You did not choose to have to be on life support within a few months to a year. It is not your choice, and it is not your fault. And I want to make sure that you remember that, because that is honestly the first step in not letting yourself fall down the rabbit hole of depression, anxiety, just doing all of the wrong things because you're pissed at yourself for letting yourself get to this point, which ultimately will only make you feel worse and make everything worse. So we don't want that. It's not your fault, and we need to stay in a positive mindset. Once I got listed on the transplant, my doctor kind of told me, like, do you have anyone that's willing to donate or get tested? And so I was like, yeah, my sister, my dad. My mom has diabetes, so unfortunately she was not able to get tested and try. So my dad and my sister said that they were going to try and get tested to see if they're my match. My sister has a big fear of a lot of things, and needles is one of them. So my sister did get tested. However, she just was not in the mental space to go through with everything that was involved in it. Mind you, if I was 21, she was 19, she was 18 years old. So she was very young. And so my dad went ahead and was going to do it. Like we all know, if you've been with me for a while, my dad did end up donating his kidney, but years later. And no, it didn't take that long to try and figure it out. It was a bunch of crazy things that happened that led to it taking 5 or 4 years. But anyway, so the doctors basically said that if I have a live donor, then it should be within a couple months that I will get my new kidney. However, like I mentioned, it was not that simple, and my dad didn't end up donating right away. So I kind of spiraled once I found out that I wasn't going to get a kidney right away, and I became very depressed. And I didn't care what anyone had to say, what was good for me, bad for me, anything like that. I was newly 21, and I drank my life away. And that is what I did. I was like a alcoholic, basically. I was on disability still because I was just finishing chemo. And I woke up had my coffee and then went to the gym. And then after that, I drank all day, all night. And that was my life for, I would say, 4 or 5 months. And then I got on dialysis, and I'm not going to lie, it continued, but not as much, because by the time I got on dialysis, I felt like shit. And that's the thing. You don't want to waste that time in between finding out that it's coming to getting on dialysis. You don't want to waste that doing things that make you feel worse, because once you do finally need it, it's going to hit you harder and you're going to feel worse. So once I found out I needed it, it was so quick. I got the call that I needed it. Within a week, I was set up with an appointment to, like, a consultation to get the tube put into my stomach. Went there, did that. Within another week, I had the surgery for it. However, mind you, that's 2 weeks already. After that, you need about a week to heal, so 3 weeks. A week to heal, and then you'll get set up with a dialysis unit in your area. Once you get set up, you have about another week that you have a training. During training, you're not getting dialysis. So that is a whole month after me already needing it. Like, when they get the call that you need to be on it now, you still have about, roughly, I'm sure other hospitals and units speed up or slow down the process to their own timing, but mine was about a month before I started. And once I finally did start doing my dialysis, it wasn't the machine, because peritoneal dialysis is with a machine that basically does the work for you besides connecting and disconnecting to the machine. So during training and about 2 weeks after training, I was doing manuals, which meant I had to put a bag of solution on an IV pole, and I had to manually switch out the dialysis, which means put the fluid in me, take the fluid out of me 4 times a day for about 2 weeks. And mind you, before I started doing the manuals, which was 4 weeks, I desperately needed dialysis, and I was swelling up like a balloon quicker than freaking the speed of light. Literally was feeling more and more sick. Just had surgery, so that obviously takes a lot out of you. And just trying to recover with my body not processing anything. I felt like fucking shit. And so once I was finally able to start getting manuals, that is when I realized how much my world has changed and my life has changed. Obviously, no one tells you what it's like to start dialysis, to start life support. People only talk about life support when it's like you are in a coma, on life support, that type. But there's so many forms of life support, and dialysis is definitely one of them. If I did not start dialysis in 2019 when I did, I probably would not be here. No medication, no lifestyle change at that point would have saved my life. And that's something, like, if you really think about it, is so crazy that for me, being on peritoneal dialysis, sugar water saved my life, which is so crazy, but it is the truth. And I am grateful for my time on dialysis, and that is why I love talking about it and love sharing my experience and my information. But sorry, I'm getting off topic, and let's get back to on course. When I say your life changes forever, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Some of the pros of getting on dialysis is you feel better, especially initially when you go from no dialysis at all and your kidneys functioning below 15%, which is typically when they put you on dialysis, to you get your first week or 2 of dialysis whichever kind it may be, and you just feel like you got something injected in you and gives you life again. I'm not even kidding. After the first couple weeks of getting dialysis for the very first time, I felt amazing because finally shit's getting flushed out of me and I don't just have all this buildup in my body. And it was just amazing. Did it last forever? No. But definitely, I would say, jumping ahead a little bit, for about 2 years, I felt amazing compared to what I did before. But going back, 2 weeks in, it's like pumping and flowing and working. Your blood's cleaner than it's been in months. And you just feel amazing. However, the downside of specifically at home hemo or peritoneal is that you have a shit ton of supplies. You have to have storage space. You have to have so much storage space. Hemo, I am not sure about all of these supplies that you are given because hemo is still blood. It's still your blood going in and out of you. Peritoneal is boxes and boxes and boxes of solution. And in the beginning, they don't always know how much of each you will need and blah, 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 blah. So they send you more than you need. And there's so much shit. And then you need your cleaning supplies for your tube and your belly. And you need the tape to hold up the tube. And then you need the gauze. And you need the solution cleaner. And you need the cream to go on your incision area. It seems so overwhelming. There's like binders that they give you and check logs that they give you and like all this shit. But once you do it for a couple weeks, I promise you, you're a fucking nurse now. You are literally a nurse to yourself, and it is amazing. One thing I would suggest is if you have a caretaker, or not even like a real caretaker, you just live with people, I would definitely suggest from the start of your training, they learn too. If they can come along and learn with you, I 120,000% suggest that. So that way, one, if you ever are incapable, they got you. Two, in case of an emergency, they got you. Three, they can just be a helping fucking hand. You know, it's exhausting to have to set up your dialysis every night. It is exhausting to clean up the dialysis every night. Especially once you get more and more solution needed from the peritoneal. Oh my God. There is so many bags and fluid and cords that need to be thrown away daily and set up daily. So it is super helpful to have someone in your household knowing the drill, like as hardcore as you know the drill like the back of their hand. So it's like, hey, I'm running late tonight. Can you set up my dialysis? Yeah, honey. Yeah, sister. Yeah, brother. Got you. And they take care of it, because that's one thing that I'm grateful for my husband for, because he could kind of tell when I was getting sick of this shit. And it's like hard enough, like mentally, physically having to do this shit every night and like interrupting you every night, an extra step before bed, especially like you're a parent, you have a lot of activities, I don't know, you're busy, you need that helping hand. So I really suggest that. Going back to what I was saying about all of the shit that comes along with it. So in the beginning, I think I did 2 bags of dialysis a night. Basically, you have your machine, you have a cassette, you have the cords, and then you have the bags. I was using a machine called the Omnia. That is like the newest dialysis machine. When I came from California to Arizona with that machine, they did not use the Omnia. However, I kept using the Omnia because it was better for me, because everything was digital. So typically when you start dialysis, you have to log a bunch of numbers. your fill volume, the UF, how clean your blood was, how clean your blood got throughout the night, and all that type of stuff. Typically, if you are on the older machines, you have to handwrite everything and keep logs yourself. I'll be honest, that shit was so fucking annoying. I hated having to write all that shit down in the morning when I'm rushing, because I slept until the last minute before work and have to write all that stuff down. And if I forgot, I didn't know what to do and it'd be blank, and then I'd get in trouble. So the Omnia uploaded that all to the dialysis unit, and you never have to write a thing again. It was beautiful. You can input your weight on the machine in the morning. You can input your blood pressure in the morning. Nothing had to be on paper. It was amazing. It saved you so many steps. So that way you can turn off the machine and it's ready to go to set up again at night. Just saves so much time and so much steps. So honestly, if you have to write it, it's not a big deal. Typically, I feel like they want you to write it in the beginning just to like remember and learn all of the things you have to do on a daily. But if you can ask for the Omnia, I really do think that that is a way, way easier, smaller, compact option. So for about, I think 2 years, half my time, maybe even 3 longer, I was on the Omnia than the old machine, and it was really nice. Also because the Omnia had a heater inside of the machine, so it warmed up your bags for you before it goes in your body. Me personally, I don't give a fuck if it's warm or cold going in. Yeah, if it's cold, you feel it more, and it's like a cold sensation going through your belly. Didn't bother me. With the other machine, the older machine, they want you to like use heating pads to warm up your bags. So unnecessary. Obviously the nurses want to show you all the options, everything to do, most cautious, most comfortable, but it's a lot of extra stuff. So really like study everything that they're giving you and trying to teach you, but you can kind of like pick away at the things that you don't really need. Of course, be sanitary. Of course, take all that seriously, but you don't need to be freaked out about getting peritonitis, which basically can happen if you aren't washing your hands, you're breathing on the tube, you're letting your dogs breathe on the tube, all that shit. It's not as big of a deal as they make it. However, I also have never had peritonitis, so I can't really speak on that, but I'll just say that I wasn't as safe as they wanted me to be, and I had 4 years on dialysis. So I'll just leave it at that. I would say one of the biggest life changes for me was before dialysis. I am a wanderlust girl. You remember back in like 2013 to 2017 or whatever, and like wanderlust was like the word. That was me. I grew up in the Central Valley of California, and I remember there was a time I'm just like, you know what, I think I'm gonna go to Oregon to this weekend, and it was like in 3 days or whatever. I was like, I'm just gonna go to Oregon this weekend and pack up my shit, go to Oregon for the weekend, and then come home. No specific reason, just figure it out, just want to see it, things like that. My sister and I, or myself or my friends, we would just go to the beach all the time just because I just always had to be by the water. I always had to be in the mountains, something like someone says they want to go on a trip, and I was down whether I had the money or not. And skipping forward to now, post-transplant, I am that way again, and I never thought I would be that way again, because I feel like towards the end of myself being on dialysis and I wasn't getting enough treatment, I never could even see myself traveling again. And here I am, having the time of my life, spending all the money. But yeah, so I feel like that was one of the hardest things, was it being so difficult to travel. However, it is possible. It is just a couple more speed bumps that you need to go over and able to do so. For example, if you are on peritoneal, you need to bring your machine, your supplies, your bags. A lot of times if you're staying for even just like a day or two, you might even want to ship them to the location, the hotel, the Airbnb, whatever. So that way you don't have to worry about carrying them. You cannot carry them on the plane. That will cost a fortune. And the easiest way is to have the company, which I use Baxter, drop them off at your destination. Traveling internationally is hard as well because one, it's scary while you are, whether you feel good or not, you are sick at the time. So you don't want to risk getting sick out there. However, it's your life and I say you live it. Secondly, there's different plugs out there and you don't want to risk your machine not working and you feel like fucking shit. But otherwise, traveling within your country, I think that is totally doable. And me personally, I just chose not to. I went on one vacation in 4 years, and the rest of the time, the only time I traveled was to go back home to my mom's house, and that in itself was enough for me. But summer of 2022, my family all went to Chicago, and we had to ship everything out, make sure the bedroom was close enough to the toilet, like all that. I passed up a lot of traveling trips with my friends and just a lot of things, and it did stress me out a lot at the time. But looking back, what I would tell myself is it's out of your control and you can definitely find a solution, and you shouldn't hold yourself back from doing things that you want to do to live your life because it's an inconvenience. Yes, it may be a big inconvenience. However, you shouldn't be traveling with people that are understanding of your situation. So if you're with people that are understanding and know your situation, they're only going to want to help you and no one's going to judge you, and they're only going to do things to make it easier on you. So go and book the trip. Say yes to the next vacation, the friend vacation, whatever it may be. Do it. Enjoy, celebrate. Just because you're on dialysis, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be living your best fucking life to the capacity that you personally can. And that's something that I wish I would have felt more and done more when I was on dialysis, because I feel like that also led to not the best mental health for myself by not allowing myself to do the things that I love to do. And lastly, I just wanted to wrap up this episode of the podcast with, it is going to be a big change. It is going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot mentally and physically on you being the patient. It's going to be a lot mentally and physically on the people closest to you. It's going to be maybe hard for you to let people in and let people know what's really going on and the extent of how you feel during this time of your life. You might lose friends over them not understanding the severity of your condition, because dialysis, like I've mentioned many times in this episode, is a life support. It is a serious thing, but it is something that really does save your life and make you feel better. You may look great. Unless someone saw my tube, no one knew that I was on dialysis. I was so insecure for how many years because I couldn't gain weight on dialysis. I couldn't eat. Everything made me nauseous. I was barely eating. It was hard for me to work out because, if you know, I was a big gym girl and I got super skinny and I couldn't get above 130 pounds the whole time. Like I said, I was nauseous constantly. As time went on, more and more things appeared. And that is very frustrating. But let me just tell you, this time, however long you're on dialysis, it might be a month, 5 months, a year, 10 years, who knows? You're going to learn the most you've ever learned about your body, about yourself, about who really loves and cares about you, about what a good doctor is. You're going to learn so many things. And I feel like as much as dialysis fucking sucks, I'm just going to be honest, it fucking sucks. I would not be the person that I am today if I did not have those 4 years on dialysis. I'd be a much different person. It humbles you, but it makes you stronger at the same time. And it makes you fight for everything that you believe in, you think is right. It gives you a voice. And I just think if you're in that position where you know you're about to be on dialysis, or you just started dialysis and you're scared and you're mad and you're confused and you don't know what to expect, it really is going to be okay. And you really are going to get a transplant, and you're going to be better than you ever would have been if you didn't go through that, or go through this right now, what you're going through. I wish that no one had to go through this, but at the end of the day, there's always going to be someone that is there for you in your circle and in your bubble. And if you don't have someone that you know right now, this community of people, the support group that I joined, that my mom made me join, is full of hundreds of people, thousands of people that are in your same shoes. You're not the only one. This isn't your fault that you're in this position right now. And I swear to you, when you get that transplant and you're all healed, all of this will be worth it, and just like a little smidge of your life. I hope if this podcast has helped you in any way, please share with someone that might be going through the same thing, or even someone that is going to be by your side through this journey. And hopefully very soon you get your happy ending. I will see you guys next time. I'm not going to put a date on it, but I will see you next time with another episode. Bye, guys.